Witam ponownie, Robert Łapiński, organizator Pixel Heaven. Dziękuję za wytrwałość, troszeczkę zrobiło się chłodniej na szczęście i chciałbym zapowiedzieć z największą przyjemnością naszego gościa specjalnego, który specjalnie na Pixel Heaven przyleciał tutaj z Francji. Za chwilkę Piotr Micz-Mańkowski, redaktor Secret Service Onegdaj, poprowadzi z Frederikiem Raynalem sesję Questions and Answers, czyli pytania i odpowiedzi. Ponadto Fred pokaże też kilka filmów, jak tworzył Alone in the Dark, powie też pewnie coś o swoich aktualnych projektach. Także jestem dumny, dlatego tutaj wyszedłem. Chciałem tylko powiedzieć, że jest mi bardzo miło, że Fred przyjechał. Frederick, thank you for coming. It's a very big pleasure for me to welcome you here on Pixel Heaven in Warsaw. Time is yours and Mitch.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to meet you. Dzień dobry. Hi everybody, thank you to be here. I'm very happy to be here. Piotr, please.
To co, zaczynamy. Planujemy to mniej więcej na godzinę i 15 minut, żeby tutaj nikogo nie zanudzić, jednocześnie samemu wytrzymać to. Fred bardzo szybko mówi, bo wczoraj cały dzień, że tak powiem, zwiedzaliśmy Warszawę i mieliśmy okazję ze sobą porozmawiać na tematy growe i nie tylko growe, więc tłumaczenie go byłoby niemożliwe praktycznie z tego powodu, a poza tym nie nadąży się za nim, dlatego będzie to w języku angielskim. No i powiemy o Alone in the Dark i powiemy o innych projektach Freda i powiemy o nim samym. Więc zaczynamy. Fred, first I want you to tell us about your inspirations, about the things that created your imagination, that produced Alone in the Dark in the future. What was your favorite book? What was your favorite movie, as you recall it from your childhood?
Hi, hello. Actually, when I started to program in the 80s, actually in 1980, my father was very interested by what I was doing with computer, and he said, "Whoa, there is something to do with computer," and he decided to open a computer shop and to sell computer from this time. They were ZX81, after Spectrum, after Amstrad CPCs and everything. And there is a particularity for this shop because it was a computer shop, but it was also a video shop, VHS tape rental. So I was working days and nights in my father's shop, and when I was bored to work, I watch movies from the video, from the video shop, and it was filled of all the movies of the 70s and the 80s. And my favorite part of it was obviously, as I was about 20 years old, all the horror movies from the 70s, and especially some movies that you may remember. And the main inspiration, what really I wanted to reproduce the atmosphere and things like that, was Dawn of the Dead from John Romero. Okay. Was Dawn of the Dead of John Romero. Also a movie which was very important too, was Amityville. And this is something very interesting, and what you see here of this movie, that's the scenario of Alone in the Dark. It's just written on this picture, for God's sake, get out. And that was the main goal of Alone in the Dark, just to get out of this house. And that was something that exists a lot in the 70s movies. Usually you have one guy or a group of guys and girls that enter a special mansion or a special place, and at the end of the movie, they just need to be alive, usually just one. So that was really the main inspiration of Alone in the Dark. The first scenario I wrote was this, just get out. That's the main inspiration.
Okay, but now we still have late 70s. the computers start to invade markets. And what's your recollection of your first contact with computer? What was your first computer when you got?
Yeah, actually, I dreamt about computers since I was younger than that. I started the electronic class when I was 13, and at this time, computer was not accessible for everybody. So I was building some LED stuff, blinking LEDs and things like that, noises, and I was saying, I was 13, yeah, this is my computer. And I didn't know why. I was very, very attracted by that. So the whole story started actually in 81, when the ZX81 was sold in kit, and I built my first computer without knowing what I will do with it. I just wanted to build my computer. Before that, when I was even younger, I loved to make games for my friends. I mean, games before electronic and computers with dice, wood stuff, or anything. And when I built my ZX81, I just realized, wow, this is a machine to make games. And then I never stopped programming days and nights since that time.
Okay, and at the end of the 80s, you produced the biggest 8-bit success. It was Popcorn. The title that triggered the corresponding the next situations. Could you tell us about this game?
Oh yes, this game was actually when I was working in my father's shop. I was there to repair customers' computers, and I was also working on something maybe just a few of you know. In France, we have a special terminal in every home in France. It was called Minitel. It was a small text terminal where you can, before internet, where you can access different services on it. And my work was to make a Minitel emulator on Amstrad CPC, on different computer. And every time I added a small game in it. And I have a good friend, which name is Christophe Lacaze, that come in my office, in my father's shop at night, and he asked me, I want to do a game, so teach me programming, and what game do you want? So actually, I didn't program a lot of things on Popcorn. I was more the artist. Yeah, sorry, just 4 colors at this time, and you cannot change the colors. It's not a choice. And so I was more the artist for this game. And I didn't realize yet that a game can be sold. So it was a freeware. And we just gave floppy disk to our friend, telling, okay, games are to play with friends. Give it to your friends. And that was just completely crazy. We received more than 10,000 letters from the whole world. That was just incredible. And we say, wow, how can it be possible? Because I live in a very small town in France. I just gave 2 or 3 floppy disks to some friends. And then it spread very, very fast in the whole world. And that was something very, very crazy. And that's an important beginning of my story, because Infogrames at this time saw this game and asked me and Christophe, my friend, to join Infogrames.
That was the thing that I wanted to ask you, because you got 2 letters from two companies. One was Infogrames, and the second one was Cocktail Vision, probably.
Yeah, you know my story better than me. Thank you. Yes, actually, I didn't receive just 1 letter for Infogrames. I received 2 propositions for a job. It was Infogrames and another company. I'm not sure if it was Cocktail Vision or Loriciel, a very French company. And one was in Paris, the other one was in Lyon. And as I came from a small town, I chose the town instead of the company, and I decided to go to Lyon, which was more nicer town than Paris.
Okay, and now we are at the time that you are in Infogrames, and what's your first job in Infogrames?
Yeah, when I job in Infogrames, I wanted to tell you Yeah. Okay. Fine. Okay. So when I was just a regular programmer, when I started at Infogrames, I was making graphical low-level assembly stuff, and I did all the lines, polygons, sprites, and all the display stuff for a lot of game in Infogrames. But one day, they needed somebody to make a conversion, a port of a game from the Atari ST to the PC. The game was all in ASM code, assembly code. And I said, okay, yes, I feel something with that. And I want to make the conversion. The game was named The Cube at this time. It was not Alpha Waves. And I did this assembly conversion. So I spent maybe 6 months inside, and you can see on the screen, the game was a kind of 3D platformer, and all the levels were inside a cube like this. So I spent 6 months of my life inside this cube doing this game, and my fantasy was very, very excited. And when I was working, I thought there is something to do with 3D and polygons, something more advanced in graphics. So the first thing I did that came from the idea of Alpha Waves is the modeler, the 3D modeler and the 3D engine of Alone in the Dark to animate 3D characters, because I had a kind of vision working on it to have 3D human characters with skin and with interpolated animations for the characters. And then I started my first tool, my first modeler, 3D modeler, with it, and the modeler was inside the cube. Which to you, this is the first modeler I did in 1991. This was the 3D modeler, and as you can see, everything, all the modelization was inside. Oops, I need to. All the okay. So it was named 3Desk, and this was the before working on the engine itself of Alone in the Dark, I needed to make the engine itself. So the first work was on the modeler to be able to have the kind of characters I want, because at this time it was before 3D Studio. There were no real-time modeler. That was something very, very new. So I needed to make my own modeler with my own vision.
Fred, to understand correctly, you produced this famous logo of Infogrames, yeah? You produced this animation of the logo of Infogrames, yeah? If I understand correctly, this what you show us now is that you produce the animation of logo of Infogrames.
The rotating pay to the animal. Oh yes, it was done with that.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So, but you were still contributing with other projects. For example, with Eternam, you were working at Eternam, the game that was very popular in Poland. It was described in Secret Service. Yeah.
Actually, for Eternam, I did some of the graphical stuff because I was involved in the libraries for graphics. But Yael, with somebody who is important for the next part of the game, did some graphics for Eternam.
Okay. And what was the first spark that? Wait a moment. What was the first spark that started the reaction in your mind to create Alone in the Dark? What was your first thought that you got that I want to make such game? I want to make completely new thing.
Yeah, I can't tell exactly. Everything went quite quickly, actually, because when I thought about this kind of 3D characters, maybe the first concept of took me 10 seconds because everything was being joined quickly at the same time, I imagine these 3D characters, and then I say, wow, I can have my zombies in 3D, as I dreamt of zombie games since the movies I was watching a few years ago. And I say, wow, I can have 3D animated zombies with that. And then everything went quickly. Wow, I need to make a game where you need to escape from zombies, and in a house like the movie from the 70s. And oh yes, so you'll be just alone, because I don't wanted other characters, because you need dialogues, you need a lot of different things. So just one characters. And actually, at the beginning, I was wrong just for one thing. I thought that I could use photography to make the backgrounds of Alone in the Dark. But actually, I tried to make fit my 3D engine with some photography from this time. You need to remember that in 1981, a digital camera didn't exist. So to have a picture of a house, you need to take a picture, real picture, to develop the movie, to go to the only scanner we had at Infogrames. Infogrames at this time was 25%. So go to the room where the scanner was, scans the picture to have a low-res, monochrome, 2 colors picture. And then I tried to make my engine fit. And that's the only mistake I did, because with the lens deformation, I couldn't make my 3D fit with it. So then I said, okay, how can I do? Because I knew already that I couldn't use polygons for backgrounds. Say, okay, my engine maybe at this time, the PC at this time was 8086, some 82, Android 86 start to appear at 12 megahertz. And so my engine was able to display maybe 500 polygons. So say, oh, if I want many zombies on the screen and a character, I will not have enough polygon for the background. So that's where the photography came. But as it was not possible, I said, okay, so I need to make a rendered picture for the background. But even with renderer and 3D, I told you, 3D Studio didn't exist at this time. So I needed another way. So I built a tool which name is Senedit, that produced this kind of picture. So you edited, you put all the collisions of the world with cubes, like you can see on pictures. And then those pictures should be drawn by hand. But something which is very important at this time is that the project wasn't official at all at Infogrames. And even worse, they didn't want me to do that because they just didn't believe in it. Say, no, you can't do that. It's not possible to make what you want now with computers. And so I worked a lot at home. Each time I have a spare time during the day working on it. So I was alone to make all these tools at the beginning, but I needed a real artist. Popcorn graphics wouldn't fit the game I wanted to do. So I did something quite funny. As it was not official, I put those, I put 4 images like that on a floppy disk, images from the first room, for the first prototype room of the game, and I gave the floppy disk to all the graphics, the artists, sorry, inside the company. It might be 3 or 4 people, and 3 of them answered me because I wanted somebody very passionate. It was not official. One of them said, "What do you want me to do with that?" Yes, it's just if you want. I need somebody who really wants to do something with that. One didn't care. And 3 other one was not good. 2 of them was quite fine, but one was really like Prince of Persia graphics and say, no, I need the old colors. I need a style that can suit the year of the game, which was 1920, and to have also a kind of rendering that fits well my flat polygons. So I asked them, say, okay, draw something that looks like real, with small details, but flat surfaces. So it was kind of challenge, and so that was the method. The program used was Deluxe Paint on PC at this time, and actually those images are from the last game. The 4 real first picture was those first picture for the first prototype of the game, and the game was still not official internally.
But as far as I remember, the breakthrough came when somebody created such a sketch for this, one of the graphic people. Do I remember correctly? The man with the lantern.
Yeah, that's me. Yes, let me back in the presentation. Something also that was maybe a mistake at the beginning, and maybe that's why Infogrames didn't believe in it. Because very beginning of '91, I explained my vision to Didier Chanfray, a good friend of mine and an artist at Infogrames. And I explained him what I want to do. And with characters in a house, 3D. And he made this drawing. This drawing was done before everything of Alone in the Dark. And I had this picture above my desk. And when people ask me, what are you doing? I'm doing this. And say, no, you are a funny guy. Okay, that's my goal. This is my goal. And that led us during the world development. Say, okay, look at this. This is the goal.
Okay, when you had the engine, and the idea, you started with you met your future wife Yael Beros there, who worked as a graphic, and then you started to prepare first demo of Alone in the Dark. Could you tell us about this?
Okay, and I can even do more. I can show you it. The first demo of Alone in the Dark in September '91. It was I did the character and the animation, so please forgive me. And this was the real first demo of Alone in the Dark. I don't know if you see well. Some part of the backgrounds were hand drawings, bitmap, and some objects were real-time 3D. The chair on the right is real-time 3D. Yes, I know it shows, but that was the first test for the different camera views when you move inside a room. And especially what you are seeing now taught me a lot of things. Okay, this kind of camera, look, even when I recorded, I was stuck on the table. And I said, okay, this kind of view is not possible because the game is not very useful when you have this kind of camera. So this kind of camera were really better because it still gives a movie feeling, but you have a huge surface, so you know where you can go easily. But there is something also very, very important. Look at this window. We are in September 1991, and this is the first time that a monster enters in a room breaking a window. I don't know if you play other 3D games later with some maybe dogs entering through windows. This was even before Alone the Bird. I think that the inspiration came from the birds from Alfred Hitchcock. I don't remember well, but that was the first time a monster enters through a window in an horror game.
Okay, and then the head of Infogrames, Bruno Bonnell, saw this, and what did he say?
Actually, yeah, somebody inside the management of Infogrames was always saying, let him do, because I know it's useless. We need him for other tasks in the company. But then, when I did this and showed them, look, this is possible. So then I think they say, okay, so now you're the project manager of this game. Go on, but you need to finish it before the end of the next year.
And then you were producing more sophisticated graphics. This wireframe became polygons, and then the autumn of 1992 came, and the product was very close to the to release. Could you say about this period, the end of 90? 1992.
Okay, so let me directly go to, yeah, it's in December 91, the game, the first room of the final game was done.
And there was also a thing about Chaosium license, because Bruno Bonnell got the idea to implement monsters from Lovecraft universe to your game.
Yeah, okay. As you may have noticed, at the beginning, Call of Cthulhu was not part of Alone in the Dark. I wanted to make more a Romero game than a Call of Cthulhu game. But I knew very well Call of Cthulhu because I did play a lot role-playing game, Dungeon and Dragon, and even Call of Cthulhu. But actually, I didn't like Call of Cthulhu that much because what I hated more in role-playing game was the character sheet. And especially the character sheet of Call of Cthulhu has more than 50 characteristics to manage. And that was about this number of characteristics. Something funny is that when we were speaking with Chaosium, because Infogrames wanted to have a game with Call of Cthulhu inside because they were talking with Chaosium, the owner of the license. And he asked me, do you want to incorporate Lovecraft and Call of Cthulhu stuff? And say, okay, just perfect, because I wanted that the text you can read in the game was very, very frightening, more than you can see, because you see a monster with 20 or maybe 50 polygons is not that frightening. So you must read about it to be very frightened when you encounter it. Infogrames sent to Chaosium what the game could be. I had some very funny mail. For instance, I received a mail from Chaosium saying, okay, we understand that for a game, the 50 or I don't remember the amount number is too much. You can join those two characteristics in just one characteristic. Say, okay, it's 49 characteristics now. And but I said, I don't want any character sheet. I want nothing on the screen, just life point counters when you are in the inventory, because I want this movie feeling of the game. So when Chaosium saw that and read, it was with fax. We exchanged with fax. There were no email, no internet at this time. And they said, no, it's not a Call of Cthulhu game. Said, okay, it's not a Call of Cthulhu game, but as I didn't want any character sheet in the game, that was just perfect. But since we were talking with them about that, then when we reached the second floor of the house, Lovecraft monster, Call of Cthulhu monster, start to appear, because since then we use all the monster, not all, monster you can find in Lovecraft books, in the game. So that's why there is this, we are going through zombies to Lovecraft. It's a mix of two universes actually, but it worked for good.
Okay, December 1992, premiere of Alone in the Dark. How do you recall that period? What was your recollection of this?
A nightmare. That was just, I was working between 15 and 20 hours a day all the time. That was so much my baby that I was just living for it. And at the end, in September 1992, we were in a very, very stressful situation. Look at the screen. You can see the prototype made at the beginning of 1992. Look at the character. It was not the final one, but especially look at the head. Then I wanted to make a kind of voxel 3D stuff to have realistic, between quotes, head. But I never had time to make this voxel stuff. So we were working during the whole game with just sphere for the head of the characters in the game. But in September 92, say, okay, the game will be released the next month. Maybe you need some head for your characters. And then Didier decided, and I remember this day, he said, okay, forget your Foxel stuff, I know what I have to do. And then he worked days and nights for, not that much, it was for 2 or 3 days, but to add polygon head to the character of the hero, the pirate, Emily Hartwood, and he did that. But where it's very funny, because you know the last picture, but if you launch the game again now, and if you go inside, if you don't touch, when you are in the menu, you don't touch anything, and there is a slideshow that is run. And actually, the pictures for the slideshow were done in April '92, and as we didn't have any head at this time, we did fake screenshot. Oh yes, I'm sorry, I was always complaining about fake screenshot, but we didn't have any choice. We need to add head on them. And what is funny is that in the slideshow inside the game, I just completely forgot, because when you are at the end in the master time, there is a lot of things you don't see anymore. And if you let the game go, you will have the fake head inside the final game. And it's the same thing for the box. The picture on the first box are those pictures because they need to print jackets and they need to do everything before the real head was incorporated in the game. That was some very stressful situation.
Okay. So there's also something that you want to tell us about the production time, or can we go further?
Yep. What further? Final video?
No, you're leaving Infogrames and going to...
Okay, but maybe I can leave the final video when I'm speaking.
Okay. Then show us.
Okay. Okay. So let's go now after the release of Infogram. The video here. Sorry for the resolution, but the games at this time were only 320 by 220. So this is very low res, but that was the resolution of the game at this time. And when the game was released, we were in December '92, and the manager of Infogrames, Mr. Bonnell, said something that will change the future of Infogram and my future too, because he came to me and he told me something that was just the baddest thing he could say. He told me, okay, Fred, I know how you will do Alone in the Dark too. Just change a little bit the story and it will sell because it's a number 2. I was so disappointed by this kind of decision. He could have said, okay, Fred, do what you want, but I want the number 2 for the next Christmas. I would have worked days and nights for this, but asking me to say, okay, we don't care about the players, just do a sheet and then it will be fine. That was the worst thing to tell me. Then I decided to left Infogrames to the next step of my story with Adeline Software.
When we were talking yesterday, I asked you about you, Bruno Bonnell, and your first answer was when I asked you, what is this guy? What is your essence of your conflict? You said, this guy is a nightmare, right?
Oh, yeah, I don't want to say too bad things, but yes, that's something quite weird because manager of some video games company like Infogrames actually didn't like games and they like money. And they didn't take care of the player. But as I told you, I was making games for my friends since I was 5 or 7 years old. And it was a way for me to give things, to communicate with my friend. And I always, and still today, when I make a game, I'm thinking about the kind of pleasure I will give, the kind of experience I want to share with someone. That's why many of you, when you just come to see me to sign something, you are my reward of that. I made game for you, and when you like a game, I have my reward. So yeah, I really made game for pleasure and not to. I don't like to cheat with player.
Okay, Infogrames without you produced a sequel and the third part of Alone in the Dark, and you were with some people from Infogrames in your own company, Adeline Software. Tell us about the beginnings of Little Big Adventure, because this was your first title under a new name.
Yeah, Delphi, at this time in France there were several publishers which were very small at this time. And another publisher was Delphine Software with Paul Cuisset. And they sent me a guy who was a journalist before, maybe you know him, Danny Bullock. And these guys came to see me and say, okay, we have something to propose to you. You will build your own company and do whatever you want. Okay, yes, that's interesting. But Bruno Bonnell didn't tell me what I just said before, that say, oh, okay, yes, you're a nice guy. But when I decided to left Infogrames, I say, okay, so is that true? You can set up my own company and do the game I want? Say, yes, okay. The only condition was that the name was Adeline Software. I didn't choose the name because actually Delphine Software with Paul Cuisset and Adeline Software are the name of the daughter of Paul de Senneville, a well-known guy for singers in France in the 80s. And this guy has two daughters. One is named Delphine, the other one Adeline. So that's why the company was named Adeline Software.
Okay, and tell us about Little Big Adventure.
Yes, so I didn't leave Infogrames alone. Actually, I brought with me the main part of the team, which is Didier Chanfray and Yael Barros. So with three of us, we were very the core of the game. The programmer, the animator and 3D characters, and the background artist. And I also brought with me Laurent Salmeron, who was the guy that tell to the management, let him do. He was a good friend of mine. So we were 4 employees of Infogrames, leaving Infogrames to set up Adeline Software. The beginning of Adeline Software is also a so nice story about Little Big Adventure, because I wanted to continue with this idea to have 3D characters inside bitmap background, because it was a good way to have very fast animations and beautiful graphics. So I wanted this kind of game. And when we started, the 4 of us, we were in not that huge, maybe 50 square meters or something like that. And we were just sitting with no computer, with nothing. And they say, okay, Fred, explain the game. And then we work together, the 4 of us, building the Little Big Adventure. We didn't know the title yet, Little Big Adventure, but we wanted this game, an RPG-like game with 3D characters, with fights, with a deep story, with everything. And while we were buying computers, desks, chairs, everything to set up a company, we were writing how the whole Twin Sun world was working, the 4 races, what's happening in the world, the main story. And we had a bunch of information before having even a computer to build it. So we work a lot on paper, and we needed maybe 4 months to set up everything and really starting working on the engine, on the new graphics, the new modeler, because it was also the year 1993 when we started, that the first 386 processor came out. That was a completely new world. We were living the 16-bit time to go to the 32-bit time. And so all the assembly, LBA is half assembly code, half C code. And all the assembly code was done in 32 bits. You maybe now, you know all those old 8-bit and 16-bit computers. But starting with this new 32-bit processor was something, wow, this is so powerful. even PCs were 33 megahertz. 33 megahertz, it was the double I needed for Alone in the Dark. So I say, wow, we can be something very wonderful. And also video cards were evolving. So we say, okay, now it's time to go to high-res graphics, 640 by 480. That was high resolution. And at this time, all the video cards don't work the same way. So we had to work all the things for every card with all their special way of handling this new high-res resolution. That was very, very a great time. We had the feeling of discovering a new world with very powerful computer.
Okay, you can take a drink. I will ask slowly next question. You use the occasion and take a drink because I think take a drink, Fred, because I will ask slowly the next question. After 2 parts of Little Big Adventure, Adeline produced its third main title. It was Time Commando. It was quite popular in Poland. Now it's available on GOG. Could you tell us about this project and your recollection of this title?
Okay, it was the continuation of the same idea since Alone in the Dark. When I discovered this trick to have bitmap backgrounds and 3D graphics, then with LBA, bitmap backgrounds but 3D isometric cubes and 3D. And we were working on LBA 2, and I wanted to have a next step with bitmap backgrounds because CD started to be a device that you can have at home. And so I say, okay, so we can have a video on the CD with bitmap and to incorporate, integrate 3D characters in it. And there is an arcade game I played a lot, which was Commando. And I didn't play it a lot of the arcade. I played it more on the Commodore 64. And I wanted to make a game, a beat them all, like Commando, but to use this technique to have video streaming from the CD with all the 3D position of the camera for each frame, the collision for each frame. That was quite crazy. And so I had the idea of using the time to start from the prehistoric time to the future, to have several levels with completely different graphics each time, because for LBA we had a very, very special computer. For LBA, for the rendered scene, the 3D cut scene you can find between the chapters, we use a silicon graphics and Digo 2 and Softimage as a 3D. We were very in advance and very happy to have this silicon graphics computer. So cutscene of LBA were done with Softimage and silicon graphics, and we had this computer to make the rendering of all the backgrounds for Time Commando in the time. So that's why it was at this time quite new to have this kind of things.
Nowadays you work in your own company, that is shareholders are you and your wife Yael Barros, it's Ludoid, and everybody asks you that if you have rights to Little Big Adventure 3, what's going on with this project? It's also many questions on internet. What's about this? Could you tell us it straightly?
Yeah, Didier Chanfray and myself, since when we did a company first with my name No Cliché, but when No Cliché closed because Sega, you know the story of Sega, and when Sega closed down a lot of things, we closed No Cliché, and that was a very difficult time because when I said we closed the company, it doesn't mean from one day it's closed and we continue. It took 6 months to close it. It was quite complicated. So everybody from my team, the team I had since 10 years, and was spread in different companies. So I didn't work with Didier. He was still a friend of mine, but our roads were different for a few years. And since a few years now, we meet more and more again, more and more. And we both and all the people in the team also wanted to go to LBA. And by seeing us more and more say, okay, we need to do something about it. So there is we first and especially Didier buy the rights for Little Big Adventure. So now we have the rights for it. So that was the first main step to achieve, to be able to continue with LBA. And we start to speak with some publishers about it. And publishers have some doubts, say, okay, it's a 20 years old game now, and you have colorful, childish graphics, and you have adventure and action and reflection and all that. This is not a game that can sell well nowadays. So obviously we believe the opposite. So we decided to have a strategy, and this strategy is first to make the remake of LBA 1 for iPhone and Android. So we are now working on it, and we hope before the end of this year you will be able to play the first version of LBA with a touch interface, a nightmare to do, believe me. And so before the end of the year, we have a Little Big Adventure 1 on iPhones, iPad, and Android phones. And we hope that you will be there to support us, because the strategy is to show that to publisher, look, this is exactly the same game, not the same interface. I cannot play it anymore, it's just so awful. And say, okay, this is the same game than 20 years ago. And if we can show that, a lot of people buy it first, but just say good things about it, it will be the proof to say, okay, the game as we want to do it still can exist today. And then we will be, because what we want for LBS 3, because we are talking about it, is to have the maximum freedom to make it exactly as we want, with no marketing guys wanted blood or whatever, I don't. So LBA 1 will be the first step, and what can be the real beginning of LBS 3, 20 years later.
Okay. When you were invited here, there were annunciations that you will show us something special. Yesterday, when we were eating pizza in Warsaw Wall City, you showed me this thing. And the next, I think, 5-10 minutes, we will show our viewers the thing. Tell us, what is your new project? What is the new project of Frederick Raynal?
Okay. Since 2 or 3 years, I decided to make small games. Maybe some of you know them. I'm talking about Boxon, 8,000 Chess, small games made at home. I wanted to be back to a real manual way of making games with just 2 people working on them. And so it's when you are making games with just a very few team and 1 programmer and game designer, the freedom is completely free. Freedom is free, obviously. The freedom is huge. And so I wanted to do something, a game like I'm doing it for myself only, with all the things I loved in video games since I make them. And so it's very, very early prototype. But as you will notice that it is related to retro gaming and things you might like too, I decided to show you just a small demonstration of what it could be, because this is really the beginning of it. Okay, actually, we are in a web page. This is HTML5 and the WebGL code. And what you see here on the screen, there, this is the real beginning, actually, of the game. That sounds weird, because the interface of the game, yeah, maybe you can hold the mic. Can you hold the mic, please? I need my hands. Yeah. As you can see, it's like an interface like MS-DOS, and you have command like MS-DOS. You start with a very reduced set, and you have things like, as you can see, let me list font. You can see Amstrad, Sinclair, Atari font. For instance, let me show you that mine reminds you some souvenir. Let's choose the Amstrad font with the size 2. Okay, this is the Amstrad font, but it's not a real Amstrad yet, so you need to use some instructions like color, text, yellow, and then color, paper, blue, and okay, then it's more like an Amstrad CPC. Okay, maybe you prefer Atari, so you can change the font to it's not Atari, I use Gem because this is Gem font. And okay, that's really the beginning of it, but this is just a very small part because you can, I will go just fast and not show you everything. I will open it very soon. It's very a prototype state, but we still can have fun with it. So let me connect to this virtual distance system because now I have a GUI, so I have Windows with it. I have now also an extended instruction set with a lot of different possibilities. I can list programs like, oh yes, there are programs inside. What is that? There are also some strange things like, oh, there are 3D models. What is that? Okay, in programs you can find that you have some tools inside it. For instance, my view, let me show you a simple object. Oh yeah, there is also a 3D engine in it with a 3D object. And for instance, I also can display object like this. Maybe it will be remind you some things. Oh yes, our old friend is also here too. Yes, and actually, for those who can be interesting, this game will allow you to create your own 3D models, to edit your own world with it, to make game for instance, oh, let me, this is a game in itself. And for instance, you can customize and build game like this. Oh, I thought it crashed. For instance, the kind of games you can find in it and build yourself with the whole system, because there is actually I integrate into it some things like this. So you have the full tool, and if you remember what I show you for Alone in the Dark, and also after I didn't show you the modeler for LBA, which was really more advanced, but actually this is the same modeler that we use without the polygons for Little Big Adventure. So inside your web browser, you can modelize, animate, all the stuff from within.
Fred, it's worth to say that the sequence that you show us, yesterday you showed me on your mobile phone. It used
Yes.
gyroscope, so it's very nice to play on this phone.
Yeah, because I want to make a special economic model because the main system with all the connection, you can share models in network and everything. The tools are all embedded, but the small game you see also exist on Android and iOS. So all the mini games will be free for mobile. And if you buy an account on the website, you will be able to incorporate your own models and backgrounds in your mobile phone game. And so all the tools to build the world and everything. And I'm not showing you here because there is above all that, because all you see here is the tools to make the game and the interface, but you will have a game where you take the role of a kind of hacker inside the system, and you will have to enter memories and to fight against the system to I'm not tell you the main story, but a full solo game with a story will exist above all that. But all the tools will be accessible, and you even need to use the tools to win the game, to use the prompt or everything. You have some memory you need to connect to. It's a little bit like Tron, actually. So you really need to connect to the system and to start to hack it. You will even maybe need to edit some script to be able to crack some code in the game. It will really be. You can edit scripts like MS-DOS inside it. It's just full of all those old stuff I loved, and I put all my souvenir inside this game.
Okay, so we will be ending, I think, our conference. So I would like to ask you the last thing about your feelings about Poland and what your and tell the final words to our viewers.
Yeah, I am very, very happy here for so many reasons, and especially thank you very much, Piotr, because I didn't know nothing about your country, about Poland and Warsaw, and Piotr make me a big tour of your city and everything, and I really think you have a wonderful city, and was very, very surprised because we are not very far from France, but I'm not a guy very open to the world, spending my time in my cave with my computers, and I have very old vision of your country, and very communist stuff, sad, gray, and everything. And your country is just wonderful with trees, grass, all those nice buildings and everything. And I'm very, very happy to discover all that, and especially this kind of event too, which is something I couldn't have dreamed 20 years ago, because 20 years ago we made games, we were just some weird guys inside the garage, and now we have this where all my life is around me, all the computer I had or worked with are there exposed, so this is so weird and enjoyable. Thank you very much to all of you.
Okay, thank you very much.